Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today I'm going to be talking about what we know about air superiority, what we know about capture the flag, what we know about endgame. Now sadly, this was going to be an episode of On the Level that I do with Luton every now and then, and we had it all recorded and planned out and it was set and ready to go for today. And then DICE came out with new information on endgame, which basically answered a lot of questions that we were already talking about and kind of invalidated a lot of our discussion. So unfortunately, Luton isn't here with me today, but he did put a lot of work into editing the audio of that episode, and I'd recommend checking out his channel. It's linked on my main channel page, and I'll put it in the video description as well. Now, if you watch my Capture the Flag trailer breakdown video, you'll know that we have quite a bit more information on the Capture the Flag game mode. It actually does look pretty cool, and it looks like they're sort of reserving some of the heavier armor in it and really relying much more on light vehicles. That's what they've been saying about endgame, is it's going to be a little bit more focused on lighter, faster vehicles, and the anti-air vehicle that they were talking about is a Humvee with some lock-on missiles and apparently also some sort of grenade launcher or javelin rocket pod. Now, how about air superiority? If you're lucky enough to have a premium membership, then you will have seen that air superiority trailer. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's on Battlelog. Just click the premium button on Battlelog and you will see a trailer of tons of jets flying around on a map that looks a lot like Operation Firestorm. In fact, I believe it's the actual same map from the Capture the Flag trailer. In fact, in the first shot, I believe, of the air superiority trailer, you can kind of see the Capture the Flag area down below. There's a lot of jets flying through windmill areas, which looks really cool because, I mean, you have to think about it. What are you going to do in an air map? There's not a lot of obstacles you can put in there. What about giant windmills? That could add for a really cool way of trying to lose somebody who's on your tail or breaking a missile lock. Now, air superiority is definitely a throwback to Battlefield 1942. In Battlefield 1942, they released a map called Coral Sea where there are 2 aircraft carriers. Out in the Pacific, there's a few islands around there, but for the most part, you just flew fighter planes and tried to blow up the enemy team's aircraft carrier. It was crazy and a lot of fun. They also had the Battle of Britain, which allowed the Germans to fly bombers and fighters, and you had to blow up British anti-air installations and radar installations. Now, based on what I've learned from the trailer, there's going to be 3 capture points on the map that they demoed, and those capture points are actually going to be blimps. There's a clip where you see all 3 blimps up in the air, and flying close to them, I believe, will capture them. You have tickets just like in any Conquest game mode, so essentially it's going to be Conquest but with jets. Now, how many jets are we talking? I mean, in Battlefield 1942 there's quite a few planes that you could get up in the air at once. Watching the trailer, the air superiority trailer, there is a screen where it shows the mini-map, and including the pilot, there are 7 friendly jets on the screen at one time. Now, it's not to say that some of the jets could have been stolen, but I don't see that as a likely scenario here. So I would expect at least 7 jets per side, if not more. Considering that it just happens to be 7 jets on this one section of the map, I would imagine that there's going to be at least 12 jets per side, because that would sort of fit the console requirements for server size. So you could have 12 jets versus 12 jets, and I just can't wait to see how crazy this aerial combat gets. Something that Luton and I were discussing was the balancing issues of jet combat. Now, in normal maps like Caspian Border or Operation Firestorm, there's 2 jets per side, meaning dogfights can't get too much crazier than 2 jets chasing one guy. However, chances are another jet's going to get up in the air, or something weird's going to happen with ground forces getting involved and locking on, and it's never going to be a straight up 2-on-1 jet fight. I mean, it could, but it doesn't happen too frequently. Now, with air superiority, if we have 8 jets per side, 12 jets per side, there's going to be a lot of lock-on missiles. And if there's one thing that I've learned from PlanetSide 2, it's that lock-on missiles in a 1v1 aren't a big deal, but lock-on missiles in a 1v6 mean it's game over for that one pilot. There's absolutely no way from escaping that, and it kind of becomes infuriating with lock-on weapons that you only have enough countermeasures to deal with maybe one opponent. Once you run into 3, 4, 5, you're basically guaranteed going to die unless you can somehow dodge those missiles, but for the most part that's really hard to do. I will say that I am slightly worried that they're going to balance lock-on stuff for jets based on air superiority and potentially imbalance some of the other game modes where there's only 2 jets. We saw this with helicopters when Armored Kill came out. They increased their lock-on range for Stingers because Armored Kill maps were huge, but then you go back to Caspian Border and all of a sudden Stingers can lock people from halfway across the maps. You're getting these insane lock-on ranges, and choppers no longer have below radar, so everything got changed up quite a bit. So they balanced one game mode and imbalanced another. Hopefully that won't happen with air superiority. It'll be really interesting to see how lock-on missiles play out. Like in Armored Kill, we got a nice variety of environments for the maps. Sure, they are all very large armored maps, but at least the setting seemed a bit different. You had Nighttime Death Valley, you had Albor's snowy mountains, you had Bondar Desert, which was hot and sunny. Well, they're going to do the same thing with Endgame. We're going to have snow maps, we're going to have foresty maps, we're going to have desert maps. So I'm looking forward to the geographical variety. Now, how about the dropships in Endgame, which have been mentioned before but never really explained? They've talked about how they're going to parachute in vehicles, but also mentioned how you might be able to parachute in from them. Well, apparently you will be able to parachute in from them, and you will be able to call in vehicle reinforcements from them. Apparently they're going to drop infantry fighting vehicles, which everybody knows those are some pretty powerful weapons to have. So it seems like it's going to be very important to have the dropship. To get the dropship, you're going to need to control the central flag in what I imagine will be a game of Conquest or something like Conquest. And I think this is a great way to keep some sort of circling vehicle, much like the AC-130, in the game that isn't incredibly overpowered or annoying. If you drop in an infantry fighting vehicle, that's going to be a great boost to your team, but it's not going to break the game. The maps are going to be designed with a lot of jumps in them to take full advantage of the dirt bikes that we're going to have. And it sounds like that Capture the Flag could actually be a lot more fun than I was initially expecting it to be. Having dirt bikes and all these cool new Jeeps seems like it's really going to allow for a lot of interesting chase situations to arise, and awesome jump scenes, and just a lot of crazy gameplay that's not only going to make the game look really good, but probably be a lot of fun at the same time. Now, while DICE released all this awesome new endgame news showing off air superiority and Capture the Flag, they also talked about Battlefield 4. That's right, the first time that DICE has ever mentioned the next Battlefield game. Now, it hasn't been confirmed that it's going to be called Battlefield 4, but the next Battlefield title has been confirmed officially by DICE to come out next year. Apparently, it's also official now that Endgame is the last DLC available for Battlefield 3. I'm getting this news from MP First, and apparently they're claiming that it is official that Endgame is the last DLC. And that's kind of sad. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, you gotta think there's been a lot of content released for Battlefield 3. A huge amount, like more than an entire game's worth of content has been released post-launch for BF3, and if you signed up for premium and got that whole deal for like $60, you essentially got a whole nother game worth of maps and weapons. I'm a little disappointed that nothing seemed to come from the rumors of the US cities. There's some sort of like rumor that there's going to be 4 US cities that took place in like New York and Los Angeles. I don't know what happened to this. I mean, maybe this is something that EA's saving in their back pocket to maybe surprise the BF3 community with, or maybe they just thought the maps were so awesome that they wanted to save it for Battlefield 4. Either way, I hope we get to play some of the bigger, more sprawling US city maps at some point in Battlefield's future, whether or not it's BF3 or BF4. I still think that those would be awesome environments. So ultimately, this is a lot of news coming down the pipeline for Battlefield 3 at once. It's a lot to process. We got a lot going on with Endgame. The jet superiority looks crazy. I'm going to have to learn how to fly jets again. And the Capture the Flag actually looks a lot better than I was thinking it was going to look. The trailers, of course, just look completely awesome. Again, got to think roly-the-poly for orchestrating those. I mean, they know how to make their game look good. So that pretty much wraps it up for what's going on with Endgame and the future of Battlefield. Let me know in the comments if you guys are excited for Endgame, if jet gameplay appeals to people out there, if it's just going to be a very small portion of the community that actually plays those maps, kind of like the Armored Superiority game mode is pretty unpopular. But let me know. I just want to see if you guys are actually excited for this new expansion, or if you think it's going to be kind of a miss. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.